Tom Pelissero is back on the Rich Eisen Show, my colleague from the NFL Network, fresh back from, he didn't even go anywhere. It was a home game for him with the NFL owners meeting this week. Good to see you, Tom. How are you, sir?
Doing great, Rich. What's up to my boys in the studio?
Hey, Tommy. What up, baby?
What up, kid?
Now, guys, I'm talking to Tom. No texts.
I can't promise that, Rich.
Well, I already texted Tom.
I did too. I sent him the video
See,
early,
Tom's
so not to
focused.
bother you.
Look at him. I love your focus. All right, Tom. The Tush Push was not banned because why?
You need 24 votes.
Oh,
to
I
pass
know
it,
that,
you
but
know?
you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm asking. Why did
No,
we
I
get the
know.
24?
But here's how I would explain it here. Over 2/3 of the league voted to ban it. So you have strong support to ban the play, but the NFL sets a really high bar, which is 24 out of 32 to pass a rule. And so, listen, the Eagles, as I said to Jeffrey Lurie when I saw him walking in with Jason Kelsey, they brought out the big guns for this meeting, and they had an extended presentation. Jeffrey Lurie spoke at length. Jason Kelsey spoke, showed some plays, explained his perspective on it. But I haven't talked to anyone who was like, boy, I was going to vote to ban it. And then after listening to those speeches, I decided that I was going to not vote that direction. I mean, the most prevailing sentiment that I heard from owners and team presidents was, I can't believe we're talking this much about a play that is run this little. It came up not because the Eagles are so good at it, but there were certainly teams that I spoke to that were not going to vote in favor of banning the play because part of the logic was, well, if we come up with a play that's really, really good, we don't want that to get scrutinized. We don't want to set the precedent that a really effective play that's within the rules suddenly must be illegal. I spoke to other people who said, hey, we got a really good offensive line. And remember, the Packers' proposal that they tweaked, they controlled the language, not the competition committee. They broadened it to cover all push plays, which was in essence the rule that was on the books from 1920 through 2005. And I talked to people who said, well, we got a really good offensive line. When our guy's hustling after the play 25 yards downfield and then pushes the pile forward or knocks him, we don't want to get a 10-yard penalty for that because an official who's trailing the play is going, well, I couldn't tell if he blocked a guy or if he hit the runner, so I'm going to throw the flag. Which is part of the reason that the rule got taken off the books in 2006, which was it was hard to officiate down the field. I really didn't talk to people who flipped their votes. I talked to a bunch of people beforehand, and the vote count more or less went the direction that it seemed like it was going to. But this is rare on a couple of levels here, Rich. One, it's rare that a health and safety related rule on which there was consensus among the competition committee and the various health and safety committees did not end up passing. But it was also the first health and safety related rule on which there was no injury data. There was no sign that it was a dangerous play. When Jeffrey Lurie is telling the other owners, hey, this is statistically the safest play that's ever been created, that's probably overdoing it. That's like saying if there were 10 flights into an airport and none of them crashed, hey, it's the safest airport that's ever existed. Run 10,000 more flights and you'll see, exactly how safe it actually is here. But without that additional data, it was a little bit of a harder sell to some people to buy into that. There definitely were people who looked at this as, more of a rugby style play and they just wanted it gone for that reason. There were a bunch of reasons for people to vote to ban the play. But in terms of the teams that ultimately did not vote for it, there were a bunch of different explanations that I heard, and it ended up coming up 2 votes short of passage. And we'll see now, based on the data they collect, injury and otherwise, through the 2025 season, whether this comes up again next March.
Well, I mean, in terms of the data you collect, Tom, you and I both watch a ton of football. We all do here in this room, and anybody in the sound of our voices or watching us on television, marveling at your hair. All of us collectively. I don't recall the last time there was a tush push and play was stopped because somebody needed to be carted off or was taken off the field.
No.
Or the next play, if it was stopped or if it wasn't a touchdown or if it was a first down in the middle of the field and then we're going, that the independent neurologist buzzed down. I just don't remember it, which leads me to believe the Lions share, even though the Lions were a team that voted to keep the play, the Lions share figuratively of those who are voting to ban it were doing it because they couldn't stop it. That's just the general sense I have. And I'm wondering how many do you feel were voting to get this play out because they couldn't beat it? Tom?
I didn't get the sense that that was a prevailing sentiment. Now, are some of the coaches going, this is BS, this looks like a rugby play, like it's unfair? Because that was one thing that I heard as well, which was, well, offenses already have all these inherent protections. They already, have the forward progress rule where if, hey, they're stopped, they blow the play dead. If the defense keeps getting pushed back, then that's allowed to happen. There already was kind of an unfairness aspect to that. My sense of it, though, was, and you go back to March, Rich, when the room was more split, they gained a half dozen or so votes in the past couple of months here. And a big factor in this, even though you're right, there is no injury data, there's no documented acute injuries that have occurred on this play. But what NFL owners heard was that the mechanism was there for injury. There's all kinds of things that they now can find through various studies and the sensors that they have about the biomechanics of plays, about the posture, about what happens when you have 16, 18 men all ducking their necks down, and the amount of additional force and mass that's involved when you're pushing the runner forward. What was emphasized to the competition committee as well as to the owners was this can become a dangerous play, that this is something that could lead to something down the line. So when you end up in that spot and everybody is telling you, hey, this could become a dangerous play, again, that's the reason, Rich, when we've had votes to change the kickoff, which was not particularly popular at the time. When it was, let's change the rules on hits on defenseless players. When Ryan Shazier suffers a career-ending neck injury, and there are already rules on the books about you can't spear. You can't put your head down and drive it into somebody. But what did they do? They rewrote the rule to ban all crown of the helmet contact, and that rule and language has continued to evolve. Usually when you have the competition committee, the league office, and the health and safety committees all saying, this is dangerous, we got to get it out, usually owners are going to vote in favor of that. And again, 22 out of 32 teams voted in favor. But without that additional actual injury data, plus some of those other football-related considerations that I mentioned, you just didn't get enough teams to say, we're going to vote to take this play out. Nobody is rooting, including the 22 teams that voted to ban it. Nobody is rooting for somebody to get hurt on this play. But certainly, whatever injury data, if any, comes out of the 2025 season, as well as, is this play run more often? Are there variations of it? Are there more dangerous variations of it that we see? Are there more dangerous ways that teams come to trying to stop it? You remember the Commanders last year? They're diving people over the top of the line. And in addition to that, and our Steve White's documented this on the Insiders the other night, the Commanders, their other part of their strategy was run around and grab the waists of the pushers. Like basically have a guy come off the edge and bear hug somebody, which also clouds the official's vision. It can play eye tricks on people. I mean, there's all kinds of things where it's all the additional ramifications and what potentially could come out of that. That's the stuff that the NFL is going to watch. I don't anticipate that the competition committee or the health and safety committee's opinions are going to change about the play this season. But any number of different factors could influence whether this comes up again in a year.
That's my last question for you on this before we move on. Is in fact the future. The fact that it got so close and the people who want it out are 2 votes away, 2 elbows to twist away. Does that mean this comes up in the 2026 owners meeting? Is that what we can pretty much make book on that, Tom?
Well, Rich McKay was asked a question along those lines. He said he can't guarantee that it's going to come up again, but he cited all the same factors I did, which was broad consensus among the various committees that the play should be out, the fact that there was a lot of good discussion in the room and that there were people very staunchly in favor of banning not just this play, but all push plays. It's been an emphasis for the competition committee in recent years, and McKay said it's going to come up again, which is even on downfield plays, which again was the reason that this rule came off the books 20 years ago, and it took a while, but eventually the Eagles found a way within the rules to exploit it. They still want to make an emphasis this year of when you get those scrums down the field. We've all seen them where, Saquon Barkley being a perfect example, where you're 5 yards down the field, there's 3 defenders this way, then the offensive line pushes and the play's not getting blown dead. We want them blowing the whistle. We want that play stopped because, again, those get to be rugby-style plays that potentially somebody could get their ankle, tied up under the pile. You could have somebody getting slammed to the ground awkwardly. All these things, horse collar. I mean, I can go down the list, Rich, of all the different types of plays that have been banned through the years, but they all have something that this play did not, which was specific acute injury data. That doesn't necessarily mean that this play is safer, like the Eagles argued, because the sample set, the data set is so small. You're talking about 120 plays last season out of tens of thousands of plays league wide. The more information you gather, the more the play is run, the more you're going to know. And again, I'd emphasize nobody wants to see an injury here, but if somebody were to get hurt on this play, that might be the type of thing that tips this over 2 more votes next March and the play is gone.
Tom Pelissero here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's the backstory from your reporting of Brock Purdy finally landing on the number with the Niners that they landed on?
So it was around the start of OTAs, Rich, the start of the offseason program, which was mid-April. And it sounded like there were real questions of, is Brock Purdy going to be there for the start of the 49ers offseason program? Around that same time, the sides kind of had come to an understanding. As much as you can make an intellectual argument that as the top quarterback who is anywhere close to the market, Brock Purdy should be at the Dak Prescott type of number, $60 million per year, that it was realistically not going to get there. And there's a bunch of different factors involved in that in terms of the leverage points in particular. Brock Purdy was only due $5.4 million, I believe it was, in the last year of his rookie contract. And the number was only that high because Purdy had hit a bunch of different escalators. When you're negotiating off a number like that, the 49ers can sit there going, this is a player that's never made money, because he was the last pick in the draft. He now could be on the books for 5.4 this year. We can tag him again in 2026, tag him again in 2027. You can go on that way, and you're never going to get back the money that you're losing short term by not taking the deal now. Dak Prescott was in a similar type of a situation because he was a 4th-round draft pick. He ultimately decided to push it all the way, but he had to play out the last year of his contract. He had to play out a tag and get very close to a second tag that the Cowboys actually ended up applying for purposes of buying time to get the paperwork done. You got to take on a lot of different, injury risk there. There's time value of money involved. It worked out for Dak Prescott. You could argue that it worked out for Lamar Jackson too. But again, he played for like $2.3 million, Lamar did, in the 4th year of his rookie contract at a time that if he had had an agent, any agent would have said, dude, you're losing so much money in the short term. You're not going to gain that back no matter what the numbers are at the end. So the 49ers got to their bottom line type of number. It was within striking distance of all those other quarterbacks that we've seen in recent years here. Then it was just a matter of working out some of the other details in the contract. It was going to be the guarantee structure. It was going to be the cash flow. And really, Rich, those are the important things. I think that sometimes we get caught up in the average per year, right? Because that's Dak Prescott's at 60, and people say, Josh Allen is at 55. Josh Allen, if you're doing new money average comparisons, is at 100. There's no way to apples these because everybody are in different types of positions. With Brock Purdy, because he was only due 5.4 this year, it's hard to shift enough money up to make the numbers look right. But when I say that it's a cash flow system, it is a cash flow league. In other words, the sooner you can start the clock to get into your next extension, the better off you are. Lamar Jackson still has multiple years left on his deal. If he had signed going into year 4, he'd already have a new deal. He'd already be at the end of the extension that he signed with the Ravens. So it made sense, even though it's not the top of market deal, for Brock Purdy to go, okay, we are locking this in. We're removing the injury risk. It's $181 million in total guarantees. It's more money than Jared Goff got over, I believe, the first 3 new years on the contract here. For the 49ers, they can go, if you include the last year of the rookie deal, it's really a $45 million average over 6 years at a time that the salary cap is going close to 300. This gives the 49ers cost certainty. They could have played the hard road here with Brock Purdy. They went the opposite direction. They publicly said, this is our guy. We're going to pay him. He's going to be here long term. Now this allows you to go on average over 6 years here. We got him at $45 million per year. That allows us to budget, pay other guys, pay Fred Warner. They had already paid Kittle, revamp things around Brock Purdy. And for Purdy, it's a $53 million new money average, which is what matters when you're comparing these deals. It's a very fair deal for both sides of this, and one that leads to the conclusion that everybody wanted, which is Brock Purdy being the 49ers quarterback for years to come.
Lastly, Tom Pelissero. We talk all the time, it's a midnight league, that nothing really gets done until it's the last minute. It's even a 12:01 league, 1 minute after midnight. What is that for the Steelers in terms of Aaron Rodgers? Is it the mandatory mini camps between June 10th and 12th? Obviously, it's not mandatory for people who are free agents, right? But it is something that I'm sure the Steelers would like to get some show on the road here. It's not. Is it the beginning of training camp? Is it, in fact, the first preseason game? Could it possibly be week one? When is midnight here for the Steelers in your mind?
Here's the thing, Rich. We've already gotten to what I believe to be the midnight point several times already with Aaron Rodgers. It was the start of the league meetings when things are moving and the Steelers are making decisions and they're having to answer questions about it. Aaron wasn't ready to commit. I thought the start of draft week would make a lot of sense. It did not end up happening there. So now we're into this kind of weird offseason area where, yes, ideally you'd like Aaron Rodgers to be in for minicamp. Nothing that I've heard makes me believe that the Steelers don't still expect Aaron Rodgers to be there eventually. He's missed some of the offseason program. He's missing OTAs starting next week. Mini camp would be the next logical checkpoint here. I just don't know at what point Mike Tomlin, who has been in touch with Aaron Rodgers and has been the patient one and being willing to, hey, what did he say at the start of the offseason program? Like, I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. He just isn't putting any type of a deadline on Aaron Rodgers. Again, if you get past minicamp, then you're into another 6 weeks or so of questions about who the quarterback's going to be and all the players who are away not knowing what the deal is going to be or who's at the top of the depth chart. I would say, if I were guessing, Rich, that the Steelers would have an answer, whether it's right before minicamp or right after minicamp. Ideally, they'd certainly like Aaron Rodgers to participate in the minicamp and just get a few days' work, end the questions and the speculation, and let people know, okay, this guy is here. But this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking about. He is not on anybody else's schedule. And we'll see, hypothetically, if he doesn't show up for minicamp, do the Steelers pull the plug then? Or do they go, there's not really anywhere other than Kirk Cousins for us to go at this point. We've waited this long. Let's wait it out a little bit longer here. It's really in Aaron Rodgers' hands. Again, I would say there's nothing that makes me believe that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, but he is not committed yet. And we just have to wait and see. And the Steelers have to wait and see exactly when that answer comes.
Tom Pelissero, respect for your information. Respect also for your Ghost in the Machine Police vinyl over your right shoulder that I've been noticing this entire time. That is some quality old school music and choice of your format to listen. And also your focus, despite whatever these morons were texting you throughout this entire conversation.
I didn't
I think
do
they left me
anything.
alone today.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Left me alone. How about
Thank you.
that?
He's the outlier,
I
Tom.
apologize for calling you morons. Then
No, you don't.
Okay, I do.
Thank you.
I don't even
From my
I'm
heart.
offended. Brockman, no text today.
No, because I told him it's not best for the show, and I appreciate them respecting my wishes. Tom, you be well. We'll chat again soon.
I'll get you next week, Tom.
There you go, Tom Pelissero,
Tommy.
everybody. Yeah, next week, as always. Very good.
All right,
I mean, I'll send him a text next week.
okay.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.